Is peace in the Middle East on the horizon? U.S. President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu certainly think so. Now that the Iranian threat has largely been neutralized, they believe an end to the war in Gaza and the release of the hostages is next, as are more normalization agreements with Arab countries. Let's take a look. U.S. President Donald Trump said he believes it is possible to secure a ceasefire in Gaza within a week.
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza, he's asking about. And we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to.
He made these remarks on Friday to reporters in the Oval Office, adding that despite U.S. and Israeli efforts to provide aid to the Palestinian people, Hamas continues to steal it. The U.S. and Israel believe that the victory over the Islamic Republic of Iran and a potential Gaza ceasefire that would see the return of all the hostages opens a new window of opportunity for peace agreements with Arab states in the region, including Syria and Saudi Arabia.
אנחנו נלחמנו בעוז נגד איראן והשגנו ניצחון גדול. והניצחון הזה פותח הזדמנות להרחבה דרמטית של הסכמי השלום. אנחנו עובדים על כך במרץ. לצד שחרור חטופינו והכרעת החמאס, יש פה הזדמנות, חלון הזדמנויות שנפתח, ואסור להחביץ אותו. אסור לבזבז אפילו יום אחד.
In the wake of the potential historic achievements in the works, President Trump on Saturday night and for the second time criticized Israel's prosecutors over the ongoing corruption trial against Netanyahu, which he said was nothing more than a political witch hunt, very similar to the one that he was forced to endure. In a post on his Truth Social, Trump called Netanyahu a war hero and a prime minister who did a fabulous job working with the United States to bring great success in getting rid of the dangerous nuclear threat in Iran. Trump suggested that given the billions of dollars worth of military aid Washington was providing to Israel, it was not going to stand for this. Trump added the trial was a travesty of justice that will interfere with both Iran and Hamas negotiations and called on the prosecutors to let Bibi go. And indeed, following a closed-door security assessment with the judges, they agreed to postpone Netanyahu's trial for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, it is day 632 of the war in Gaza, and IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir says the IDF offensive will soon reach the lines set by the government. Zamir said that the heavy blow to Iran and the IDF's offensive will soon see the army assert control over 75% of the Gaza territory. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz reports.
IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir is reportedly planning to tell the cabinet today that the military plan in Gaza has run its course. Analysts say that by declaring the army was in sight of its goals, Zamir was signaling to the government the need to decide whether to move forward with a hostage ceasefire deal or prepare for the IDF to establish military rule in Gaza. Until now, Prime Minister Netanyahu has refused to agree to an option that would bring about an end to the Gaza war, saying that Israel would carry on until Hamas is destroyed. At the same time, IDF commanders are aware of Netanyahu's most recent comment that the victory over Iran has opened up a potential window for peace. Meanwhile, the war in Gaza goes on both above and below ground. Today, the IDF issued evacuation orders in Gaza City after an early order in central Gaza after a rocket was fired at Israel over the weekend. The army said it plans to employ extensive firepower to destroy terrorist capabilities in the areas and will attack any area used for launching rockets or rebuilding Hamas capabilities. Over the weekend, the army and Shin Bet announced the elimination of Mohammed al-Issa, a founding member of Hamas and a key architect of the October 7th massacre, and one of the last senior Hamas members still alive.
And as the ceasefire between Israel and Iran is now in full effect, the pressure and focus continues to shift back on the war in Gaza and bringing back the hostages that still remain there. ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian is in Hostages Square with the latest. Shosh, what more can you tell us?
Lidar, the pressure is on to get a ceasefire and a hostage deal when it comes to the war in Gaza. Just the other day, President Trump says there is a possibility a ceasefire deal could be reached within the week. And before going to sleep, President Trump made another post on Truth Social saying make a deal and get the hostages back. We know that 50 hostages are still in Hamas captivity at this time. 20 of them are believed to be alive. And amongst those 50 include American-Israeli Itai Chen and American-Israeli Omer Nutra. Of course, there is an immense pressure, an increased pressure to get this deal closed and done inside of Gaza after the war inside of Iran is now at a ceasefire. It has concluded, according to President Trump and the administration. And of course, to end these current hostilities that still exist inside of the Middle East region, we know that for the first time, just the other day, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the families of hostages for the first time since he took office, meeting with a few of them, hearing their stories, seeing their faces and signs. Remember, these are still real people that are still in the hands of terrorists inside of the Gaza Strip. And of course, every Saturday night, these families take to the street, specifically right here where I am standing in Hostages Square, to make their cry, to make their plea to the Israeli government to get a deal to bring back their loved ones. Here's what one of the family members had to say last night about this.
I believe and I feel that now it's the momentum. Now we have the opportunity to finish the war in Gaza and to bring Nimrod, my son, and the whole of the hostages that are still in hell of Gaza. After we finish the war with Iran, we deal with Hezbollah, there is no threats and nothing is happening in Gaza. It's only a risk of the hostages and our soldiers. So it's the time the majority of the population demand to finish the war and bring all the hostages back home.
Lidar, it's unclear at this time what progress has actually been made between Israel and Hamas and the indirect, direct negotiations they may or may not be having at this point in time. It's also unknown if a group of Israeli negotiators have been sent to Doha, Qatar, or Egypt for these negotiations. Of course, we will continue to follow all of the developing and breaking news as it continues to happen in real time. Lidar?
Thank you, Shosh, for the report. And joining us now with more on the latest in the Gaza war is Brigadier General Amir Avivi, founder and CEO of the Israel Defense and Security Forum. Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
So, U.S. President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have expressed a belief that a ceasefire with Hamas and the release of all of the hostages could happen within a week. Now, this presents a lot of questions. First and foremost, has Israel really reached its war goals in Gaza?
No, not at all. We haven't reached yet any goal. Of course, the defeat of Iran and the fact that the IDF is moving towards controlling 75% of the Gaza Strip, this creates a lot of pressure on Hamas and might bring us to a hostage deal. I'm not sure we're talking about all the hostages. I think we are still talking about half of them. But definitely there can be a ceasefire of 60 days and we'll get the hostages according to Witkoff plan. I think that there is a big resolution in Israel to reach all goals of war. Prime Minister Netanyahu is saying we need to bring back the hostages, but also eradicate Hamas. We cannot win this war without eradicating Hamas. And we have to remember that. And we're not far away. I mean, if we reach 75%, this is the first stage out of two that the army presented to the cabinet at the time. Then the question is, what's next? Are we going into a ceasefire and getting as many hostages as possible, or are we enhancing the attack and bringing down Hamas? And this is a defining moment. What will be the next step? It can go either way, or a ceasefire and hostage deal, or a big attack on the remaining 25%, and they're going in and bringing back the hostages in another way.
And, you know, I do have to say, because it's been nearly 2 years into this war, and Hamas is still alive and well. We see armed Hamas members jumping on trucks, stealing food, stealing aid. We see them continuing to threaten the lives of Gazans. So what remains now is what goals does the military still have to achieve? I mean, what specific points does the military still have to be able to come and say, okay, we've taken over 100% of Gaza? And is that even possible? Is that even feasible?
Well, if we took 75%, why isn't it possible to take 25%, the remaining 25%? Of course, it's possible, and it's needed. You cannot destroy Hamas without conquering all of Gaza. So we are reaching 75%.
But as you said, it would come at the expense of the hostages.
So I'm not saying, I didn't say such a word. I said we have to bring back the hostages. It's either going to be through a hostage deal, or we're going in and then we're going to close on certain neighborhoods or houses and negotiate on the place itself. There are many ways to bring back the hostages. No, we're not going to give up anyone. 50 hostages must go back to Israel. It goes without saying. The question is, what happens on the other side? We need to get Hamas to the point that they are willing to do a hostage deal that doesn't end the war, because we cannot have a reality where Hamas is not eradicated at the end of the day. We need to reach a point where Hamas understands it's game over. They need to take themselves out of Gaza and give us all the hostages. Are we there yet? I'm not sure. I don't think we are, but are we getting closer? Definitely.
And
the terms that are created will bring us closer to such a reality of defeating Hamas and bringing back the hostages.
And, as a security expert, I want to hear, what in your view is the best possible outcome for Israel's security in terms of who will rule Gaza the day after the war?
So I think that the day after the war, in order to make sure that never again there will be a terror army in the Gaza Strip, the overriding security responsibility needs to be Israeli. At minimum, we need to control Philadelphia and have full freedom of operation everywhere in Gaza to operate similarly to what we're doing in Judea and Samaria. Talking about ruling Gaza, two efforts I think will happen at the end of the war. One is encouraging relocation. There are many Gazans who want to leave Gaza, and I think that a big part of the Gazan society will leave. Those who will stay, I think Gaza needs to be cantonized, local management of cities with the local clans, and the IDF is today talking to the clans. We see it in Rafah, how already Rafah area is run by a clan. I think the same will happen in Khan Yunis, in the central camps, and in the city of Gaza. It will be run by clans, and it will be cantonized. I don't think there will be one government in Gaza. This is the future I foresee, and I think it's also relevant for other areas like Judea and Samaria, some kind of cantonization and working with local clans. The day after Hamas, there will be no Hamas, no Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and also not the Palestinian Authority.
All right, well, Brigadier General in the Reserves, Amir Avivi, thank you so much for your insights today.
My pleasure.
And in other news, the Nean Academy exposes the truth about jihadism and the threat it poses to Western civilization. Joining us now with more on this important work is Israel Ne'eman, Director and Senior Lecturer at the Academy. Israel, thank you so much for joining us. Since you were last here, we know that you've been doing international webinars, you've been doing podcasts, and you're continuing your research on anti-Semitism, on jihadism for the Nean Academy. So it's great to have you back. And, I want to ask, we just ended the 12-day war with Iran. What is it that people are not seeing from the outside?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Great question. Iran may be halted, but jihad and terrorism is still here. We have to think of Iran as the head of an octopus with its tentacles lashing out against Israel, Judaism, but also against democracy, pluralism, all those values that we hold so dearly. Since October 7th, Iran has been daring the world to take it on. Now, Iran uses its proxies against Israel, but not only against Israel. Let's recall that they have brutalized, Hamas brutalized the Palestinian population. Hezbollah has destroyed Lebanon completely. And if we take the Houthis, they have blocked and attacked international shipping in the Red Sea. We add into that the threats against the Western world, and they keep demanding that Israel show restraint. And by the way, that includes with the Trump administration speaking about that there has to be a deal. We're not talking of regime change. Also, the issue of the Palestinians, it is very, very deceptive. That is not the issue. 9/11 happened on American soil, and that was about a generation ago. That was well before October 7th, and it's not just about Israel. It's about jihad.
About jihad, certainly. And you know, the events of the past 2 weeks have certainly shown that. They've been earth-shattering. So as an analyst of jihadism, its theology and its anti-Semitic origins, what do you believe has been the driving force behind Iran, behind the Islamic Republic of Iran, I should say?
Okay, so it boils down to this question. Why did Iran pursue such a horrific policy, program of trying to obtain nuclear weapons when they knew that Israel would not put up for it, would not stand for this at all? So what we need to do is have a quick flashback to World War II. The end of World War II, the Nazis diverted resources as they were losing. Those resources diverted in order to ship off Jews to extermination camps. So similarly, Iran has funded this jihad at the expense of their population, suffering physically, financially, everything. And for what? For the Palestinians? No, in order to destroy the only Jewish state on the planet. They have done this campaign also with those politically acceptable Qataris. So it's a very simple formula. Iran funds the fire, Gaza lights the match, and your elite Western universities provide the smokescreen for this murderous anti-Semitism. This is classic jihad, with the West deceived by its own wokeism.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you've spoken to us before about the Nean Academy since October 7th, and you've initiated courses, you know, linking the themes, as you sort of laid out for us just now, of history, anti-Semitism, and jihadism. So how do students use this knowledge in their day-to-day lives?
Okay, so first of all, the students in our community become thought leaders armed with the facts. They know jihad began 1,300 years before the establishment of the State of Israel. But the jihadi agenda continues against Zionism, against Jews, and against pluralism and democracy. We empower our students to call out anti-Semitism and those threats to democracy.
All right, well, Israel Ne'eman, thank you so much for joining us today and for your insights.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
And in other news, Israeli screenwriter and director Yariv Moser took home the Emmy for Outstanding Current Affairs Documentary at the 46th Annual News and Documentary Emmy Awards in New York City. ILTV correspondent Devo Klein joins us now to break down this win. So, Devo, the Emmys are obviously a very prestigious award. What was so unique about this documentary?
Right, so the documentary We Will Dance Again is very unique in the sense that it pieces together footage from the Nova Music Festival massacre from multiple different angles. And what I mean by that is that the filmmakers used a combination of survivor testimonies integrated with real footage from the actual massacre. You know, Hamas body cams, we know they ruthlessly and senselessly documented the whole thing for the world to see. And cell phone footage from survivors, from victims, mostly young adults, who documented on their phones what they thought were their last moments. And for many, it was, in fact, their last moments. So it's not an easy watch. We've seen the Nova footage online, but my take, Lidar, is that ultimately, this film is about humanity. It's about the light that these Nova angels were trying to spread against this force of pure evil that infiltrated and murdered this light. You know, friends of mine who were murdered that day that were really just the most positive and warm people. And I do want to add that this threat of pure evil is not yet gone. So the head producer on this film, actually, Michal Weitz, her home is currently in rubble after her home was impacted by an Iranian ballistic missile, which is a very dark, full circle moment of the forces of evil actively and currently trying to eradicate the good that Israel is creating. 364 people were murdered that day. And of the 50 hostages that are still in captivity in Gaza, 15 of them were taken from the Nova Music Festival. And we can't forget about them. So for their honor, for their sake, I think this documentary is educational, eye-opening, and a necessary watch to understand not just Israel's war in Gaza with Hamas, but Israel's war against the entire axis of evil evil. We're not going anywhere, and as the documentary perfectly captures, we will dance again. I promise you that. Back to you, Lidar.
Thank you, Devo. Certainly a necessary watch. And moving on, ILTV recently had the opportunity to visit the University of Haifa and meet some of its most inspiring and diverse international students. What we found was a university that not only excels academically, but also thrives on its diversity and global perspective. Let's take a look.
The University of Haifa offers 21 top-tier master's programs and one of the most diverse student bodies in Israel. Students come from more than 90 countries, including North America, Europe, India, Asia, Africa, and beyond. And they're studying in a city that's just as dynamic, with mountains, beaches, and a vibrant city life. Whether they want to focus on their studies, relax, or explore, Haifa has it all. University leaders say that besides the excellent education, their goal is to help students experience different cultures through each other.
Haifa is the only city in the world where Jews, Christians, Druze, Baha'is, and international immigrants from all over the world live side by side in a peaceful environment.
Didi, who you just heard from, came to Haifa from Romania. She began by studying diplomacy, but soon found herself drawn to climate change and the environment. On a visit to the Knesset with the university, she discovered EcoPeace, a regional environmental peace-building NGO. She interned there, and now she's preparing to build bridges through her second master's degree in environmental intelligence. And Didi is just one example. Another student, Aiden, always dreamed of coming to Israel. Now, he's studying Israel studies and making the country a part of his personal journey.
You could read so many books, you can watch what's happening on the news, but to actually be here in the country, especially in a city like Haifa, where I think the coexistence between the various ethnic and religious groups give Israelis a lot of hope. But you get to see life and the people living in it.
There's so much to see and so much to explore in Haifa. There's a lot of culture and a lot of different cultures, different foods, different experiences to have. So I love exploring a city.
Israel has been in the headlines lately, but at the University of Haifa, students and faculty say they've remained united and that they feel safe on campus. As Professor Adar Ben Eliyahu, the academic head of the International School, explained, the International School is a close-knit community. Students are supported and building strength and resilience, with faculty and staff always there to guide them through uncertain times.
They find their voice, they're able to see different areas of Israel and also understand the whole area in general. So this is the really best experience in Israel that they can have. There's no time like the present to get your master's, experience your best life in Israel, and have a good time.
Now, going back to Didi, the journey has brought truly unexpected joy for this student.
I feel like I discovered the love of my life and my soulmate, my Israeli soulmate, and we are a great team. We support each other. I had so many opportunities, so many amazing opportunities. I'm sure that you will also have.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 24 degrees Celsius or 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside steady temperatures with highs of 33 degrees Celsius or 92 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel and our new live channel. And you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Lidar Grafelazi. Be well, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.